Hello everybody, so welcome to another no financial advice video on MicroStrategy. And looks like I was half right, I'm gonna say, because he bought in the billions of dollars, and so I was expecting that. I was thinking more like 2 or 3 billion. He bought 1.1 billion. That qualifies as a large buy in my book. Pretty impressive. So he was likely doing the ATM this past Friday. The yield, so the year-to-date yield is now 1.69%. The guidance, of course, for 2025 was 6 to 10%. That's the guidance he gave us last November in the last Q3 call, the Q3 earnings call. I now believe that guidance is fully obsolete because, you see, it's been a 20-day period. There's 18 more 20-day period to go in 2025. And so if he keeps doing 1.69 times 18, what do we get? We're going to get a yield in the 30% range, it seems. And so that's pretty crazy if he's able to achieve a 30% yield on the ATMs alone in 2025. Note that he only has 5.4 billion left on the ATM agreement, which means that, in my view, he's going to have to expand that perhaps in Q4, perhaps in Q1. If he doesn't do that, he's going to have to move on to the convertibles. And the convertible debt is still something that he has to trigger. He's only done one convertible of 3 billion. He needs to trigger the convertible if he has to stop the ATM. My guess is that he's going to increase the ATM because the ATM just works. You dilute, you accrete. You dilute when you trade at a 2x NAV and you capture that 1%. You know, dilution is like printing your own currency to buy a hard currency, and you print your own quote-unquote overvalued currency and you capture the delta, the difference between the price to NAV and the price, the actual price of the stock. See my last video on this. So about MicroStrategy, the stock is 385. I think it's behaving pretty well considering the headlines about the vote to increase the number of outstanding shares. Not the outstanding, but number of authorized shares, which will one day be outstanding, but not yet. We are not there yet. And Bitcoin is doing very well. Bitcoin spiked about an hour ago. Bitcoin, in my view, is doing very well. It reached an all-time high yesterday at 109. So Bitcoin is doing well. MicroStrategy is doing well, considering everything. And if you're a short-term investor, of course, you think it's doing well. If you were planning and you bought some options and you were thinking MicroStrategy needed to be $600 in 2 weeks or in 1 week, then you're pretty upset. But that's not what Saylor has telegraphed to us. He works for the common stockholder, the long-term, the very long-end investor, very long-term investor. So the reason why the stock is maybe not in the 400 range after such a successful buy, maybe the FUD is coming back about the number of approved shares to increase by 30 times the number of authorized Class A common shares. That FUD is back, taking over by all of the media machine. So but we've already addressed this. I've addressed this many times in prior video. He needs to do this not only if he's going to do more ATM, point number one, but also if there is a stock split at some point. It's essential for Saylor to have an active options market. And what if the stock were to triple? Who has $100,000 to write a cash secured put or whatever in retail? Well, fewer people in retail have that, and so that's why companies do stock splits sometimes, because they want to attract retail. They want to make the options affordable for retail as well as money managers. And sure, in the grand scheme of things, it may seem like it's not a lot, but for a stock like MicroStrategy, there's actually a large retail holder, and it could also, of course, be down. The stock could also be down, of course, because he may be ATMing right now. He may be issuing new shares at the market, and so let me conclude, of course, with the stock not being map to map, the price to NAV is just under 2. It's a 1.97 right now. And so that's good to see, that price to NAV under 2, considering how well Bitcoin has performed at 105,500. Now, it seems to me squarely in my valuation spreadsheet that we are headed towards a bull case scenario, right? or do the 18-time 20-day period, that's a 30%. So it seems like we could achieve a 20% yield in 2025. So if we were to do that, and assuming the price of Bitcoin, conservative prediction of the price of Bitcoin at 140, this is not my number, these are the numbers of the Bitcoin 24 model available in GitHub. Feel free to download that. If we were to assume $140,000 Bitcoin and a 30% yield at the end of 2025, so December 2025, on December 31st, we know he's achieved a 30% yield. What would we get if we still had the same price to NAV as today, no multiple expansion or compression? We would get a stock price of $669. The stock is trading at $385 right now, so that would be an outstanding yearly return. What if we get a compression in the price to NAV? That's still a decent return for the year. It would still likely beat the Nasdaq. And of course, if we get a price to NAV expansion, which a lot of people bet on, let's say it comes back to a 3x. You may remember about 10 weeks ago it was at a 3x, when you could get to $1,000 shares by the end of 2025. Of course, the numbers start getting crazy when you start predicting this stock or trying to do a valuation model on this stock after 5 years, and I only put 5 years on this one. My spreadsheet on the Patreon goes to 10 years, but I only put 5 years. The numbers get crazy enough at 6,000, 5,000, 10,000. The numbers get crazy enough. And if you do a CAGR on all the 10 years, you can see that I'm predicting that MicroStrategy will achieve a performance in line with some of the best stocks out there, like a Tesla or like a Nvidia. But of course, this is no financial advice. This is a simple spreadsheet, and valuation is an art, and it's definitely not a perfect science. That's why this channel never has financial or investment advice. This is just entertainment. I'm hoping you're entertained and entertained only. Please like, please subscribe. Have a wonderful day.